And here with me now is the mayor of Stamford, Mr. Dan Malloy. Nice to see you here again.
Great to be with you.
We covered a lot of ground there on the setup piece, from the nursing home strike to possible Chris Dodd's run for U.S. Senate,
Sure.
you know, taking over the governor's race. But let's get straight to the more difficult part of the story, having to do with your son and his recent arrest. I guess, what is it that you would like to say about that, and how is your son doing now?
Listen, I love my son. Ben has had difficulties for a long time in his life. It's something that my wife and I and he have struggled with, and I suspect we'll continue to struggle with for years to come. That's, you know, when you have children, it's the most rewarding and wonderful experience that somebody could possibly have, but it also brings about frustrations and sometimes plays on your fears. We'll do the best we can for our son and hope that he gets better and recovers, and certainly the rest of it will take care of itself.
Well, let's address what Jim Amon has said. I had said on The Real Story a few weeks back that he thinks you should drop out of the race. He wanted to clarify that and say that's not exactly what he said. This is what he told me yesterday on the phone when I asked him what would he do if he were in your shoes, and this is what he said. I personally believe, and I mean this in my heart, Shelley, that there are more important things in life than politics. If it were me, I would probably choose my family, but that is my choice. Ultimately, it is up to Dan to decide, but if it were me, I would drop out.
You know, Jim Amon is a guy I've known for years and like in very many ways. I wouldn't talk about somebody else's family, quite frankly. And the idea that somebody makes a choice between a profession and their children, I think, is this false choice. If I was a doctor, should I stop practicing medicine? I am a lawyer. Should I stop practicing law? If Sadie had a problem in her life, should you stop working? I think that's a very serious question, and it's sort of a kind of a serious issue to raise in the context of one person running against another. But, you know, Jim has the right to say what he wants to say. I'm going to tell you something. Okay. Since this happened, my wife and I have received somewhere between 600 and 700 letters and emails from across the state. And half of those letters said, you know, there but for the grace of God go I. And the other half said, you know what, I've already been there. And about 10 people said, you know, just terrible things. And so we'll get through it, and we'll support our son. We love our son. We'll do the best we can for him, and hope that after everything is said and done, he'll be better.
Do you think this, it sounds like you find that there's a connection with the folks and other people who have had children who've had similar problems, struggles. Do you feel as if this helps you connect with them? Do you feel as if you can help other people in similar situations?
I don't know of a single family in the state who has not been touched by mental illness, emotional illness, and or drug abuse. And if there's anybody out there, you know, God bless them. What I will tell you is being a parent is a very humbling experience. Nonetheless, it is also a very rewarding experience, and we're going to get through this.
All right. Well, thanks for being open and honest about that. I have to say, too, I mean, I love my child, and it makes me nervous, the teenage years and older. So I feel for you. Well,
yeah, I'm not sure it gets over a teenage. So,
having a daughter, I'm dreading the teenage years.
Yeah,
and so,
sure.
So moving on, then, let's talk about a possible run for governor.
Yeah. Well, listen.
All right, I'm going to put some pressure on you.
No,
don't
do that.
We have to do that. When will you make a decision?
You know, sometime after the November election cycle. We're about to enter into this municipal election cycle. I am in the exploratory phase, as you well know, and we call different phases different things. But I believe Connecticut needs a new governor. Let's be very clear. There is no doubt in my mind that it's time for a change. When your state ranks dead last for job growth year after year, 20 years, it's time for change. When you have some of the worst infrastructure in the nation, it's time for change. When your tax structure is out of balance, it's time for change. When urban education is not improving, it's time for change. Ultimately, the people of Connecticut know that the state of Connecticut is broken and are looking for change. I understand that perhaps better than most, because for the last 14 years I've led a local government. I've balanced a budget. I've made tough decisions, and I'm convinced that people want that. They want change.
And this is a similar message, the one that you had a few years ago when you also ran for governor. How worried are you about Chris Dodd and the possibility that he is going to be in a very tough and tight race, and that it could overshadow the governor's race, which is what happened in 2006.
I think I think it's just the opposite, because I don't think there'll be a serious primary. No, I think there could be a serious race, but I don't think there'll be a serious primary challenge. And so you skip over the possibility of kind of having this replay that we did in the Lieberman-Lamont race, where after primary night the race just wasn't over and kind of sucked all the air out of it. Now, you know, Chris is going through some hard times, but he's a great political leader. He's done wonderful things for the state. He's going around the state talking to people, hearing what people have to say, and if he runs for Senate, and I fully anticipate that he will, I suspect he's going to win. And by the way, that's going to drive people to the polls.
Do you think, he wrote an editorial last Sunday having to do with the coverage concerning his wife and her job and her mid-six-figure salary, basically saying that the media had been biased and it was an unfair attack on his wife, and it was sexism. Do you think it was the media was biased there, or do you think it's fair game?
You know, it's interesting that twice in the course of this, you know, what is relatively short interview, we're going to spend some time together, that we're talking about family in two different occasions. You know, I think Chris Dodd stands on his own merits. He's done some great things. The history will be replete with wonderful things that Chris Dodd did on behalf of the people of Connecticut and on behalf of women. I mean, the Family Leave Act was groundbreaking and really changed the lives of Americans. The idea that you could take time off after having a baby, or if there was a sick individual in your family, you could take time off. That's groundbreaking. That's not where we were before Chris Dodd. So, you know,
Chris Dodd, he did. I remember interviewing him in his home years ago, having to do with the Family Medical Leave Act, and there was no doubt he was the one behind that in the federal level. One last quick question. In the next segment, we'll talk more about the nursing home strike and local issues. Ned Lamont. Yeah, I know that you're friends with Ned.
We are friends.
But some folks are saying, listen, he's still out there. He's going to Democratic town committees. He must be up to something. He told me not yet. Yeah. But are you convinced that he is not completely out of the race, or could run for governor or U.S. Senate? What?
I don't think Ned is running for governor. I think if he wants to be part of the conversation, he deserves to be part of the conversation. I think he's got a good mind. But I've never been confused about what it is my talent or my skill set is. I'm a good manager. I would be a good governor. I have balanced budgets for 14 years. I've made decisions about improving education and public safety, making my city one of the safest cities in America. I know what it takes to manage a sizable operation, and that's a skill set that should be applied to the state of Connecticut. So Ned, who is a friend, he's got decisions to make about his life.
What do you think he's going to do?
I think he's going to go around and talk to people and lead discussions around the state about very important issues.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the nursing home, the potential strike in the nursing home. It's something that you're bringing to the foreground here, and it is something that hasn't really gotten a whole lot of attention. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay right there. We will be back with more from Mayor Malloy. And we are back with Mayor Malloy, picking up exactly where we left off. All right, let's talk about the nursing home strike. Your folks sent out a press release urging Governor Rell to be involved and to stop this. But what can she really do except offer up more money? And it seems to be a money problem.
I think leadership. You know, listen, first of all, I have license to speak about this issue. Stanford's one of the 2 municipalities that actually runs a nursing home. I have 100 employees working at a nursing home. I take care of the greatest generation, and I think we have to put it in that context. The people who are living in nursing homes right now are the people who got us through the Great Depression, or the people who got us through the Second World War. They deserve better from us. They deserve, quite frankly, better from our governor. Leadership is hard, and I'm sure that people are saying don't get involved because you don't know what the results are. The reality is leadership requires that you get involved when you don't know what the results are going to be. We need to get these folks in the room. We need legislative leadership, we need the governor, we need the unions, and we need the operators of nursing homes. When this governor took office, there were 280 or thereabout nursing homes in this state. They're down to about 240. Many of those are currently in bankruptcy because of policies that have been promulgated by this administration. seeking to balance a budget deficit on the backs of people lying in nursing home beds by taking out $300 million in funding is going to lead to strikes. And are we just going to replay this time after time after time?
But
leadership.
How do you fix that problem? Because from what I understand, paying for folks in nursing home, Medicaid, is one of the big ticket items for the budget.
Sure.
And at times when Connecticut is facing almost a $9 billion budget deficit, where do you come up with the extra money? Where would you specifically come up with the extra money?
You know, first of all, we leave hundreds of millions of dollars on the table in Washington. That's been, you've reported on that. I've said it before. Auditors have pointed that out. And when you talk about extra money, you know, the state auditors, one Republican, one Democrat, recently reissued, or actually issued a report on a state agency that they had visited 3 years ago. They found that their recommendations hadn't been implemented, leading to millions and millions of dollars going unclaimed by this state in federal funds. And, you know, month after month, the auditors make those kinds of reports.
But millions isn't going to cut it in a case like this.
It would make a difference in nursing homes. You know, you asked about nursing homes. Okay. And what I'm saying is that when you stop wasting money on 84 by building drainage systems that don't connect to anything, or you control out-of-control growth of spending in New Haven for a facility that was supposed to cost $300 million is now going to cost $1.2 billion, or when you stop making mistakes by changing the route of Route 7 because salamanders are going to cross the road, except that you didn't read the map and didn't understand where they actually crossed the road. I mean, those are major problems. And we have a state that wastes money, and we apparently have people in the administrative side of government who seem not to care about it, because that's what the governor's spokesman said about those auditors' findings.
But I mean, would you really want salamanders to get hit on the road?
What I want is somebody to read the reports and actually understand what they're talking about. There is waste in government. I know that. I have led a local government for 14 years. My workforce is smaller today than it was when I inherited that office in 1995. You can create efficiencies. We need leaders who are going to do that. We're not going to be able to tax our way out of this. We're not going to be able to cut our spending out of this. We're going to also have to find efficiencies.
Last time on The Real Story, I went back and looked, and I asked you specifically then, where would you cut in the budget to try to plug the hole? You had said these three things. You said combining departments wherever that is possible. You said a job hiring freeze would be appropriate, and you said we need to get DOT in control. You still stick by all three of those? Any other suggestions?
Sure. Stop wasting money. Take all of the recommendations of the auditors over the last 3 years and implement them, saving millions of dollars. Go after every federal dollar that's available to Connecticut, and we have left literally hundreds of millions of dollars in Washington unclaimed. Some of that to go for medical benefits or for medical care for people in nursing homes or young children. The reality is we've got to get outside of this kind of Hartford-based bubble where we just take press releases and say, oh, I guess there's nothing we can do about this. Leadership is doing something about it.
Governor Rell had proposed splitting DOT in two. Do you think that's a good idea?
Governor Rell has made many proposals that she's not followed up on and has not pressed in the past. The reality is government is no more efficient today than it was when she took office. It's time to create those kinds of efficiencies. It's time for the governor to put skin in the game and straighten out state government. We can't wring our hands. I mean, you ask how, you ask by implication, how would I balance the budget? I would have proposed a budget in balance, which is something that the governor did not do.
You're saying because hers had a serious deficit in there, a $1.7 billion hole, correct?
Those are your words.
All right, serious, what are your words?
Disastrous. I mean, the idea that someone who's supposed to lead the discussion about how we get out of this mess would ignore a $1.7 billion problem is not good government and is not leadership. The Democratic Party is going to have to offer a candidate who is about change. Now, I'm not based here in Hartford. I've never served here in Hartford. I've run a local government for 14 years. I've balanced budgets. I hire people. I fire people. I make government more efficient. I've improved test scores in a public school system. We've built a universal pre-K program. That's the kind of leadership that I truly believe people in Connecticut are going to opt for if the Democratic Party gives them the chance.
We have only a few seconds left. We didn't really talk about Susan Bysowitz, though, and a recent poll had her leading the pack. But I believe you were ahead in fundraising. What's your thoughts on Susan Bysiewicz? How are you different from the Secretary of
polls
State?
are very interesting. 2 weeks before the last primary, they had me down 22 points, and I came within a little over 1 point of winning that race. I'm not a statewide office holder, so my name recognition is always going to be a little bit lower. I'm going to win this convention. I believe that we're going to elect a Democratic governor, and I believe it's time for a change. And I think ultimately people are going to opt for someone who is outside of the box, who really does represent change. I have not been part of this infrastructure up here for a long period of time. If you want someone who's going to change how business is being done here, then hire an outsider.
Real quick answer. Some Democrats have said that they think Susan Bysiewicz is using her office to campaign on state time. That she's out and about at press conferences that have really nothing to do with the Secretary of State's office. Would you agree with that?
You should have those folks on your show if that's what they're saying, and they should come on their show and say that. Listen, I know Susan Bysiewicz. I know her to be a good, hard-working individual as Secretary of State. My disagreement is not about how or what she does in her office. My disagreement is she prepared to make the kind of changes, to talk about reinvigorating this economy, to create jobs in this state. And I think that's where the differences are. What she does with her time is not particularly important to me.
All right, Mayor Malloy, thanks for your time. It was great to catch up. We'll see you again soon.
Good to see you, and say hello to your daughter for me.
I will do that. Very smart. Always ask about Sadie. No.
There you go.
All right, thank you very much.